Okay, in this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to modify this iSight webcam made by Apple to use with your telescope without having to look through an eyepiece. So, just getting started here. You can see that the webcam has two screws down here. All you're going to need for this entire project is this little tiny screwdriver. We're going to go ahead and remove both of these screws. And then there's a little plastic ring in here that you can just kind of pry this thing out by hand. There you go. Just lifting up on one end of it, you can get that out. With that removed, now this entire case can begin to slide off. Once you get it to about this point, you can reach in here and you can unclip this little plastic piece that was on the back end of it. Now we can continue to slide the housing completely off. You will see that there is a kind of a fabric mesh that is covering the internals, and it's just kind of taped on. This you can remove. Try to keep as much of the adhesive on the fabric as you can. That way it'll be easy to stick back on. Okay, and with that removed, there is you're going to see there's three screws around the circumference of this ring here. We want to get the one that is on the bottom side that we'll remove first. And with that one removed, now you can, there's a seam that separates the upper chassis from the lower chassis, and you should be able to just pop this off. I'm gonna lie, and I'm gonna pull out another little screwdriver here. So this is the second tool we're using. Lift it up off a few of these clips. And that will snap off. And with that removed, we can go ahead and remove these other two screws. And this entire lens assembly here will come off. I just put a part in my hand, and you won't see that. I'll explain what that was later. There is a cable connector over on this side that we just need to unhook, and that will release. And there is a large connector for another flat flexible cable right here that will release, and that will allow this entire module to pop off. Okay, with this module off here, we are going to remove the 3 fasteners that are on the back side of the board. There is another cable here that you'll release, and this entire board comes off. And this has the CCD on it, which is the actual chip that collects light, so you don't want to contaminate that. And with that removed, you'll be able to see 3 more screws around the perimeter. They're the silver screws. There's some black colored ones also. We do not want to remove those. With those screws removed, we'll be able to remove this module from the front part of the lens. And now that this is removed, this part has 3 black screws in it. There is one here, there's one inside the area that the CCD sits, and on the back side there's one tucked away right in this corner. We'll get all 3 of those removed. And with those removed, you'll be able to open up this compartment. If you kind of push on the FFC here, you'll be able to get it to lift up over this boss in the plastic. You can avoid damaging it that way. And now, sorry, I'm off screen here just for a moment. There we go. And inside here, you are going to find this little lens. We're going to just lift this off and remove it. We're going to set that aside. There will be 3 metal posts remaining. Part of something I just did, on this lens, when you remove it, there's going to be a little spring that is, this little spring is hooked up over a hook on the lens. You just need to pop that off and just let it fall back, and that'll allow you to remove the lens. Make sure you don't remove any of these three metal posts that are in here. Now we can go back and we can just reassemble these 2 parts back together. And remember to reinsert all 3 of these little black screws. Okay, with those screws back in, we'll attach this part back onto the external part of the lens assembly. If you're not keeping track of your screws, they're all the same type except for the 3 black ones, which we know what those belonged to. Those were in that last part that we put together. And they're all the same then, except for the 2 very first that you took out those are a little bit smaller. So you can kind of put all these into a pile and not worry about getting them mixed up. Okay, so I put all those screws back on. I'm going to attach the CCD now back onto here. Something we're not going to do during the reassembly. This little cable that we detached, we are not going to reinsert that into its connector. That's controlling the focusing motor, and it's also controlling, there's a little opto sensor that was watching the location of this lens. Since we removed this, if we allow it to see that sensor or control that motor, the camera is going to be constantly winding that motor trying to get this thing in focus. So we're just going to leave that disconnected. It'll default out and the camera will work fine without it. So now when we put this back on here, we are going to fish the smaller ribbon cable through the sidewall of the structure there. And we're also going to attach the larger FFC here back into its connector. And we want to be delicate with these. We don't want to damage these cables. When the large FFC is installed, let me see if you can see it there. You're still gonna be able to see quite a bit of the silver here on the end of the cable. Don't worry, it can be fully seated, and you'll still be able to see that. Getting this small one in. Might be a little bit more difficult here. Okay, that's not too bad. Okay, so that's reassembled. We'll go ahead and put back in the 2 fasteners that we removed from the bottom chassis. Remember, I left this FFC disconnected. The lens that I pulled out of here, I'm actually going to I'm going to put this right inside the corner here. There's a nice little spot where I can tuck it. That way it stays together with the whole assembly. I don't lose it if I ever want to undo this. I don't need to have that part stored somewhere. If anyone ever finds this later and they go digging through it, they'll find their missing part inside there and they'll be happy. snap the chassis back together. Okay. And reinstall that last fastener up there. So everything's together nice and tight. I don't have any of my ribbon cables pinched. Everything looks good. Now when I open this, I can see the CCD exposed right inside there. I'm going to put this cloth covering back on here. One side of this has 2 little metal springs. The other side just has 1. There's corresponding holes in the cloth, so we want to line those up properly. The adhesive still works pretty well on it, so that just goes right back on. Putting the casing on, get the big hole lined up. You're going to want to watch out for it. There's a light pipe for the little green LED, and that's stuck on the inside of the case. So just be aware of that when you're putting this on, so that you don't try to rotate this or do any other things, because you'll end up tearing that piece off. Alright, so that is reassembled there. I'm going to take this little piece and fit it right back in. I have these 2 smallest screws left. Are in, and then I just have this back plate that I can just snap back on. This is the bottom, so the Apple is aligned with that side. It won't install upside down. And there you go, the thing is reassembled. So you can now place this directly into the eyepiece of your telescope without having an eyepiece installed, and this will be able to record video just fine. Something else to show you here, this may or may not be helpful. I'm having a actual holder machined for this to fit into a 2-inch eyepiece. You might not have a model shop available to do that kind of work, so if you don't, this is a 1/2 inch nominal internal diameter piece of PVC pipe. The outside diameter is a little bit under 2 inches, so you can just wrap electrical tape around this to shim it up a little bit. And then you can buy 2 O-rings. The size of these are 32 inch or 32 millimeter internal diameter, 38 millimeter external diameter. The ring itself is about 3 millimeters in diameter. And these, if you just pop these right over your camera, go on pretty easily. Just kind of space them out a little bit here. And then these O-rings will allow you to, if you just press them right into the the PVC tube, they'll just get sucked right into there. And they make a nice tight seal, and they'll hold this on here really well. And now you can mount this directly into a 2-inch optical eyepiece holder. That's that.